All right, we're going to talk about fluffing. Should you dig around your worm bin and fluff it up to improve aeration and decrease compaction? We'll get to that on today's short episode of Coffee and Compost, and we'll also talk about a new worm farm startup guide I've just released that I can send to you right now. My name is Steve Churchill, and this is the Urban Worm Company. Hey guys, gonna be a quick one today. Readers and YouTube viewers often ask if they should fluff up their bin every once in a while to reduce compaction and improve airflow in the bin. If you're trying to make your vermicompost less compacted, you probably want to consider why it's compacted in the first place. What's likely happening is that your vermicompost is a little too wet and your bedding materials aren't bulky enough to maintain porosity in your vermicompost. Firstly, adding worm bedding to your worm bin is something that most new vermicomposters should be doing anyway. I recommend about 2 parts bedding to 1 part food waste, and this is by volume. The carbon-rich bedding like shredded paper, shredded cardboard, peat moss, and cocoa coir is going to absorb moisture released by the food waste as it breaks down. Now you can play around with this ratio and maybe make it close to 1-to-1, especially if you're using less watery waste like coffee grounds, banana peels, broccoli stalks, and stuff like that. But the thing is with these materials is that even though they're absorbent, they themselves can get compacted. So I also recommend adding wood chips, which are going to break down very slowly and maintain their own structure in the vermicompost. Bulky material like this is not going to get compacted, and it's going to help maintain the air pockets that we call pore spaces that are going on underneath the surface that keep your vermicompost aerobic. Now, because wood chips break down slowly, that means you'll want to screen them out of your harvested vermicompost. But that's a very small price to pay to keep your vermicompost aerobic and less compacted. But I think something else is going on with people wanting to fluff up their bins a bit. I think new vermicomposters just can't help themselves, and they're curious about what's happening under the surface. So they need a little affirmation here and there that their worms are doing okay. I don't think you're going to do that much harm by disturbing the top few inches of your vermicompost. If it satisfies your curiosity and makes your vermicomposting a bit more interesting, I'd say go for it. But when you disturb the vermicompost, you're also disturbing the worms, some of whom might be breeding with each other. And if you've ever disturbed 2 worms in the act of making more worms, you know that it only takes about less than a minute until they disentangle from each other. Now, new vermicomposters tend to want to treat the symptoms of their mistakes rather than correct the cause. And overfeeding the bin and not using enough bedding are a few common mistakes for the beginner. So if you're a beginner, or even if you're experienced and wouldn't mind a refresher on a few things, I'd like to send you the Worm Farm Roadmap, aka your worm bin startup guide. It's a soup to nuts guide for beginners, taking you all the way from your choice of a worm farm all the way through to how to best screen and then use your worm castings. Click this little link above my left shoulder and you can get that guide right now. All right, gang, that's it. Keep adding that carbon-rich bedding and consider using wood chips in your worm farm to reduce compaction. But if you just can't help yourself and it makes your vermicomposting more fun to see what's going on, then fluff away. We're going to see you on the next video.